Cassiopeia. Yeah, so probably gonna mention Garen here as well. Isn't Cassiopeia like a high Noxus official or something like that? Like a high house in Noxus or some shit like that? I feel like she was.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tiger, and I'm here to present to you yet another episode of Lore of League of Legends. In this episode, we'll be covering the much-requested sisters, Katarina
are they
and Cassiopeia.
sisters?
Enjoy.
Bro, how are they fucking sisters? One is a fucking half snake, bro. What do you mean, sisters?
General Dekotu had always served Noxus with his life, and there was nothing he valued more than his homeland. Since his earliest days, he'd presented courage and skill that earned him the respect of many, and allowed him to quickly advance in the ranks of the military. His experience, achievements, and birth had finally earned him the rank of general in the Noxian military, as well as a seat in the high command. Only then, satisfied with his position and achievements, he thought about starting his own family.
Yeah, I figured that's the father.
His firstborn daughter, Katarina, was not what he'd anticipated. As a soldier, he was hoping for a son that could follow in his footsteps and become another general in his family line. It was not a tragedy, though. Women could achieve just as much as men in Noxus, assuming they were cunning enough. The city-state is a cult of personality and strength, and not gender. To his surprise, Katarina did not seem all too interested in the art of politics. She would rather spend her time playing with her father's knives. The girl had been trained by the Noxus' most skilled assassin since her earliest years to develop her natural potential. When other girls had been learning about the art of seduction,
baby.
Katarina had been crossing blades with her father so he could point out her mistakes.
Congrats.
When others had been taught about pretty dresses and how one should wear, Katarina was doing just fine in her tight leather armor. It worked much better when it came to dodging arrows shot her way. While still a teenager, Katarina demanded her first mission from the High Command to prove her skill and dedication to not arrows shot her way. While still a teenager, Katarina demanded her first mission from the High Command to prove her skill and dedication to Noxus.
She's gonna be 18 at this point.
Following her father's recommendations, she was sent to assassinate a Demacian officer, head of a military camp set up in a forest. The task was relatively easy, and the environment was certainly on the assassin's side. She was, however, too eager and excited about her first task, and she could not think clearly. She infiltrated the camp with no problem, avoiding any guards like a shadow. Katarina had reached the heart of the camp without being noticed, but she got too eager to prove herself. A quick observation allowed her to notice that one of the Demacian generals had been visiting the camp, and he certainly did not expect an assassination attempt. She snuck into his tent and slit his throat open, leaving the camp immediately after, forgetting about her original target. She'd been proud of herself, and couldn't wait to deliver the news to the High Command. Before she could reach Noxus, she'd heard the news. While she'd already left the camp, the body of the general had been found, and her original target, a simple officer, had decided to take revenge by setting up an ambush for troops of Noxus. Many soldiers died that night because of Katarina's failure. She knew that no one would be pleased with her achievement. She had to come back to the camp and finish the job.
Okay.
It was.
See, this is what I mean. Like, she actually has like an actual story of like her character development, even though it's like very brief and whatever. But still, you can see like development. Like, she learned a lesson by like whatever she did. You know, it's like she thought she's gonna do something even bigger than her mission, but her mission was actually more important, stuff like that. It's like, and she realized that she made a mistake, and then she went to correct the mistake. Like, there's some character development here, and some of them are just like, he's just a murderer. He likes to kill shit.
It was obvious that security would be at least doubled after her first assassination, but she did not care. Katarina had no intention to be subtle this time around. Her goal was to dispatch the officer at whatever cost. She drew her blades and walked into the camp, slaying anyone on her way. None of the soldiers had been trained half as good as she was, and after a short battle, she finally shoved a knife between the officer's ribs.
Nice.
It cost her a few wounds and a scar on her face, but her assignment had been done.
Oh, that's where the scar is from.
Since then, Katarina had certainly matured and honed her skills.
See, even like that little detail, like the scar over her left eye, has a story, right? It's like, I think that's how you want to develop a character, like to minimally develop a character, even in something like League of Legends.
as well as her deadly instincts even
Just
further.
that one
She
mission
remembers her mistake
basically
from her
describes
early
her
days,
so
and she's
well.
sworn not to repeat it over again. She's learned to love the bloodshed that always surrounded her. She's changed a lot. She was almost like the Noxus itself, brutal, deadly, unforgiving, and yet beautiful. She's earned a title of the Sinister Blade for herself, but despite what it might suggest, she's much more than an assassin. She's a skilled speaker and leader, with a really high opinion about her homeland. She is known for speeches that she has given on many occasions, including conflict between Noxus and Ionia, and the creation of Freljord as a unified nation. She always speaks highly about her home and its citizens. They are always honorable, patient, their intentions are never bad or ruthless. She's been brought up by loyalists, and she would never betray the city-state or its leaders. She does not trust Jericho Swain, the new Grand General, but she trusts that he knows what's best for her home.
That's fair.
Cassiopeia is her youngest sister, and her personality has always been drastically different. She's always lacked the talent for fight. She did not seem attracted to the art of sword fighting, and she considered murder rather drastic. Instead, she preferred her own ways, the ways of seduction and persuasion. She's received a training fitting of a lady of Noxus, teaching her many tricks that she could use to manipulate men more easily. She was always elegant and well-mannered girl that made friends very easily.
I don't know, man. If you get seduced by her, I mean, like, look, yeah, I get it. Upper body looks sick and all that shit, but it's like, at the end of the day, it's a fucking snake. Like, if you only see the upper body like coming at you, you're like, oh, damn, that's nice. But then you see the rest, like, you're kind of disgusted. I feel like no matter how good the upper body looks, like, you're a fucking snake. It's like I don't want to do that. It's like I don't think I can be seduced by a fucking snake lady.
To turn her into a dangerous seductress, one that could force a man to change his mind in a matter of minutes. And yet, she always looked so innocent. No one would suspect such a fragile girl to be
Yeah, no one would suspect that a person who looks like a snake to be a fucking snake.
A cunning beast that she really was. Her father quickly learned about the talents of his youngest daughter and put them to good use by sending her to work for the High Command, just like Katarina. While the eldest child was an assassin, Cassiopeia's task was to gather information that might come in handy one day. Since that day, she could be seen around foreign dignitaries constantly, flirting with them until they would open up in front of her. Week after week, she'd been constantly delivering lengthy reports to the High Command, filled with intelligence about plans that other city-states had. If there was a man who knew something, Cassiopeia would probably get it out of him. That was until she met a diplomat from the newly unified...
His dad's like, yo, my daughter has great skill at being a whore. Yeah, we're gonna do that. Everything for Noxus. Whore out my daughter.
Freljord. He was a savage, a barbarian. She thought of him as an easy target, and she wouldn't be too far from the truth until the key moment. When she'd asked him to reveal his plans, he refused. Time after time, he's refused to give in to Cassiopeia's temptations. Finally, he agreed to share his plans, if Cassiopeia would swear upon his blade that she would not share that secret with anyone. She had taken his sword, shaped after a snake of some sort, and swore that she would not tell anyone what she'd heard.
Oh.
When hours later, she had been repeating the barbarian's words to her father, her skin started to tickle, and soon after her body had been shaken by revulsions, Cassiopeia started screaming as her skin had been breaking and hardening to scales, her hair turning into a cobra-like crown and her fingers turning into deadly claws. Shocked and confused, she had attacked servants that witnessed her transformation, which was still happening. A few minutes later, she'd been standing in the middle of a bloodied room, stuck somewhere between being a woman and a deadly serpent, with her claws dripping blood onto the floor. She was a jewel of the court no more. She was a beast, a horror that had to be hidden from sight, and yet she retained some of her beauty in a far more deadly, sinister form. For the first years after her transformation, she'd been held in safety of her own mansion, and only her closest family could see her real form. For everyone else, she was just a shade of a woman, covered in many shrouds.
I forget everything I said earlier about her being a snake. and not being able to seduce anybody. That happened later. That's my bad. I got ahead of myself just a bit.
Her life had been trapped inside her own room now. She was afraid of other people looking at her, watching her disfigured form.
So she freezes them.
And yet she was finally managed to accept who she was. When her father had disappeared, she had to react. He knew it was going to happen and prepared her for that, but it was still not enough. Her father went missing with no trace other than a letter that he'd left, bearing a symbol of a black rose on it. Powerless and angry about the fate of her father, Cassiopeia had murdered a guard that delivered the grim news and left her room for the first time.
Christ. It's people like this that's like you don't want to tell anything to, you know? They blame you for telling them a message from somebody else. It's like, then what? You don't want him to tell you that your father is dead? Alright, fine. Live in fucking... live in delusion. I don't care.
Revenge. And she knew where to look for it.
We all know these people who are like, you know... It's like, you have a friend and his girl is cheating on him, and you go to your friend, it's like, yo, bro, like, I saw your girl, she's cheating on you, and he's mad at you for some reason for telling him. Like, bro, like, I'm doing you a fucking favor here, okay? Like, I'm telling you your girl is cheating on you, dump her. It's like, he's just a fucking hater, you're no longer my friend. Like, get the fuck out of here.
There was only one place with enough power and influence to give her what she needed. The League of Legends. She's made her way into the Institute of War and demanded to be part of the League.
Demanded.
She believes it'll allow her to find her father.
Oh, that's why she's in the league?
And that's all we prepared for you this time around. We hope you've enjoyed what...
Yeah, maybe one day, like, Katarina's dad and Cassiopeia's dad is gonna be a summon champion. I mean, because they're throwing these hints on purpose. Obviously, like, we know that that's not the case because it's like, it's been so many years. Like, everyone, it's not even canon anymore, but, like, they threw these kind of hints probably in like they wanted to introduce certain champions. I don't know like about the father specifically, but it's like with Senna they introduced it on the Lucian story, and with Lucian they introduced Thresh and Senna, right? So yeah, I do like that they're throwing these kind of like subtle hints of like future champions and their backstory. So that sometimes it actually happens, and sometimes, yeah, maybe he's just a cuck. Yeah, maybe he is just a cuck. I don't know. Maybe he wants her to cheat on him. Huh? Yeah, hey. Maybe it's like, hey. Maybe he's like, yeah, no, he doesn't think his friend would approve of his cuckness. But yeah, all right. So that's Katarina Cassiopeia. Let's go to the next one.